Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carrie. Well, it's not normally where I talk about knitting, but it is where I talk about knitting, my tips, my tricks, my opinions, and my preferences. And this is part 2 of Finish My Project with Me. Today we are going to be washing and blocking this eventual cowl. So hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, give this video a thumbs up, and let's wash and block this scarf, cowl, whatever. In the description, I provide links to materials used in this video. To help support my channel, I do utilize affiliate links. All affiliate links are clearly indicated. For more information on affiliate links, please visit my FAQ at knitswhereitsat.com. And it's day 2 of finishing my cowl. Yes, so I finished weaving in all my ends. There are no ends to be seen now. And yeah, as usually happens with me, after I finish my ends, life happens. I get busy being mom, being human, doing other things, and I wake up the next day and I said, hey, I still have to wash and block my project. Sometimes it's a week later. Sometimes it's a month later. Anyway, you get the idea. Because of you, I'm being really good and I'm washing and blocking this cowl the very next day after I finished weaving in my ends. In addition, I have a little bonus. I'm also going to be washing and blocking this hat that I knitted a while ago. I weaved it on my ends a while ago, but I still need to wash this and kind of give it a final finish light blocking. So you're gonna be able to see how I do that with this hat and how I block out this, what is going to be a cowl. So that is what is on the agenda. Now, that is also why we are in my kitchen, because I do not wash and block my stuff in my craft room. That's a lot of water. So first, I am going to have to wash these items. And to do that, I have a few tools. 2 tools. One, I have a big stack of white towels. These are towels that I bought a while ago, really inexpensively. I think I got them at Costco on sale or something. But these are white towels that I have that I only use for washing and blocking. I just like to have towels that aren't used for other things, might be grungy with other things, might have residue from my soap or shampoo or makeup or whatever it could be. So it's just, I feel mentally better having designated towels. The other thing I have for washing is this. There we go. This is actually my daughter's old, baby tub that we used to wash her in, but she outgrew it a while ago now, and I repurposed this to be my wash tub. And what I love about it is it very easily sits on my counter, so I'm not having to lean over a tub. There's plenty of space in it. And what I love most is there's this here that you can pull out, and the water drains out here. So I can have this right here on my counter next to my sink. It makes everything so much easier. Obviously, you have to fill this up with water. Now, one of the reasons you always want to try to keep a ball band for yarn that you have is on that ball band, there will be washing instructions, including kind of the ideal temperature that your wool should be washed with. It's really important when you're washing 100% non-superwash wool. It's really important that you don't use too high of a temperature of water. Here's why. Felting requires 3 things. It requires heat, it requires moisture, and it requires agitation. So we're obviously going to have moisture in the party. There's no way to avoid that. We're washing something. There will be moisture. So we want to control the other 2 things so we don't felt our projects by accident. So I like to wash my hand knits with just lukewarm water. The other thing I have that you absolutely need in order to wash your knits is some type of detergent. Now, what I like to use is a rinse-free wool wash. I will even use a rinse-free wool wash on cotton. I don't know exactly how it works. don't know the chemistry of it. I just know that you can use this to wash your knits, and after they're done washing, you drain away the water and there's no rinsing. That is awesome. The one that I have is Eucalyptus, and you can get this easily online. And there's also Soak. There's one that I think is called Kookaburra. I haven't tried those. I've only ever had Eucalyptus, but yeah, this works really well. The directions say to use 1 teaspoon per 1 gallon of water. So I just kind of eyeball this, but that should be enough. Right there. And then I'm going to just swish that to make sure it dissolves into the water. I'm going to just take my here and I'm going to just put this in. I'm going to just gently submerge this into the water, and I'm going to try not to agitate this a whole lot. Now, I'm also going to go ahead and put this in at the same time. This isn't always the best idea in case you have a wool with dye that's going to bleed, but I know this yarn. The dye in this isn't going to bleed when I put it in the water, so I feel okay going ahead and washing these both at the same time. But that's something to be aware of if you're like looking at washing multiple items at once. If you have any concerns that a yarn is not color fast, that it's going to bleed dye, do not mix your colors. You will get dye on everything. All right, so those are now both submerged and wet, and then I'm going to take my hands out and I'm going to leave it all alone. And I got 20 minutes where I can do whatever I want. So I will be back in 20 minutes. Cha, 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 cha. Has passed, so it is time for me to drain the water. I just pop this open. Just real quick while we're waiting, is talk about why we should wash our knits. One of the key things to do to help prevent moths is to wash your knits. As you are knitting, oils, dead skin cells, various things are getting collected onto your yarn. Dead skin cells, sweat, those things attract moths. I have such a painful story about moth infestation. I can't even talk about it. It will make me cry. The other reason, though, that you really want to wash your knits as part of the finishing process is as you are knitting or crocheting, this goes for crochet as well, your yarn is actually under an incredible amount of tension. And the fibers, they're kind of stressed out and they get scrunched up and it's just like, oh, okay? Washing them helps the fibers relax and go, ah. And it's actually what is going to give your knits its final finish. And it's gonna help even out any tension issues with your stitches. It's not gonna fix it all. All right, there is a ceiling to what washing and blocking can do, right? But you reach that ceiling with a good washing and blocking process. So now I need to get all the excess moisture out of this tub. And I'm going to take this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze my items, but what I do not want to do is wring it. I only want to squeeze. I'm just squeezing out the excess water. That's all I'm doing. Notice I'm not wringing. And you can't, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm gonna bring this up closer to camera. See this fuzziness that's come up on the knitting? That's the halo. This is another thing that washing does with wools. This doesn't happen with cotton. This happens with wool fibers. But you get this halo, and depending on the type of wool animal it comes from, you get more of a halo. I'm going to grab a towel here, and I'm going to just put this on this towel for right now and set it to the side so I can squeeze out the moisture for my main project here. Now, if this was a baby shampoo that I was using or not a no-rinse formula detergent, I would have to drain the water out and then fill the tub to start rinsing out the fibers to get the soap out. But I don't have to do that with it. Oh my God, the smell of lanolin is so strong. I'm gonna grab another towel. And what I wanna do now is there's still excess moisture in this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this up like a burrito. Here we go. Move that up. There we go. I'm gonna wrap this up like a burrito. And then I'm going to flop this on the ground and I'm gonna use my feet. See my mic cable there? I'm gonna use my feet to help bring out more moisture, get my full body weight in there. So when I'm done, it will feel wet, damp, but it's also gonna be a good long way to the drying process. And this is gonna give us the moisture that we need for the blocking without it being too much and taking forever to dry. And I'm gonna just repeat this process with the hat. We're ready to block, 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 block. So let's real quick talk about some tools that I'm going to use. One is this. This is a blocking mat. This is the one from Knit Picks. This makes doing pin blocking much, much easier. Before I had these, I would line up a whole bunch of towels on the floor and use that to pin into, but these blocking mats work really, really well. The only downside to these are foam. The only downside is things do take a little bit longer to dry with these blocking mats because they're not absorbent. But what I really like about these is I can make this, like if I'm doing a triangle shawl, I can set this up to be that triangle shape, right? And if I only have like a small project to pin out, I only have to use like maybe a couple boards. I have projects where I've only used one board, or I've had larger projects where I've had to use like all my boards. Sorry, squirrel went by. Squirrel! Squirrel! The other thing that you need if you're going to do pin blocking, which we will be doing today, are pins. These are the pins that I prefer. Now, when I started, and what most people are advised to get are what are called T-pins. What's really good about T-pins is that it's easy to find rust-resistant or rust-proof T-pins, which is really important for blocking because you do not want your pins to be rusting and getting rust on your finished object. That is like no bueno. What I have come to prefer are these. These are flower head pins. You find these in the quilting section. Here, hopefully you can see that better. I'll hold it up this way. There we go. These are longer and sharper than what T-pins are, but they're also thinner. And the thinness helps with avoiding pin marks in your work. I can't use these in all situations because these are a plastic head here at the top. So if I'm going to do something like a steam press where I'm involving an iron, this, no good. I moved over to my kitchen table to give myself a little bit more space and make sure that area of my kitchen counter is freed up for when I need to do my challah. But a couple tools I didn't have on hand that I wanted to say is really useful when blocking. One is to have a spray bottle with you when you block. You know, as you're blocking, sometimes it takes a little while, sometimes you have to walk away, sometimes you need to add a little bit more moisture to manipulate your stitches. Having a water bottle on hand is really handy. The other thing I like to have with me is this. This is my 18-inch quilter's ruler. It's another acrylic ruler. Oftentimes, when we're blocking items, we are blocking them to a particular size, especially if you're knitting something like a sweater or a cardigan or a fitted item. You want to make sure that your edges are square and that things are to the size that you want. This is one of those details that does make the difference between something looking ding, 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 handmade versus homemade. And we want to look handmade. Having a quilter's ruler is way easier to use than a tape measure. Let me actually start with the hat because what I'm going to do for the hat is going to be very different. This I did with these welts. So I alternated rounds of stockinette with rounds of reverse stockinette, and that's what creates this kind of beehive look. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finger press this so that I kind of get this into a circular shape. thusly. And I'm going to use my fingers to kind of press up these welts so they stand out more and they don't look flattened out. And I'm going to turn this over this way and just kind of look at this side. And if there's any area where it's like, looks like the stitches look a little uneven, I can kind of just use my fingers to even it out as best as I can. All right, and this here is ribbing. I don't really want to do anything with the ribbing. I want to make sure that stays nice and springy and spongy, and so that it maintains its elasticity. Just to kind of make sure I got this basically round, I'm going to use my ruler just to kind of go, all right, that's 9.5 inches diameter. That's 9-inch diameter. So I'm going to just stretch that out just a squidge. My goal here is to make this evenly round and just make sure that it's a circle. That's 9.5. That's 9.5. That's 9.5. That's 9.5. Okay, so this is round now. Done. Now I can just set this to the side in a nice place to dry out. But here's the big one. Here's the big project. So this is what's going to really require a little bit more artistry and a little bit more thought, because I have these different textures that are going on, and how I treat each area of this is going to be a little bit different. This stitch pattern is called wager welt, and this is done by just inserting in the middle of garter stitch a row of purl stitches, and it creates these little bits of channels that I put this eyelet pattern in between. Yesterday, before I washed this, all you really saw was the garter stitch. But now, since I've washed it, it's opened up and you can see these channels better. So I don't really need to pin this. All I really need to do is just kind of use my fingers to smooth things out and just make sure that my edges are squared up. My cast on edge isn't exactly straight, so I'm going to just use my fingers to move that down to even it out a bit more. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my fingers to scrunch up a little bit these rows of garter, so it just looks a little spongier and rounded out, which is what I want. And this is what I mean by blocking is kind of as much art as anything, because I'm making decisions in terms of how do I want these stitches to look. All right, I'm gonna take my ruler. This looks like it's a little over 9 inches. It's like 9 1/8. 9 1/8. 9 1/8. All right, so this is consistent, so that's good. The other thing I can do is I can take this from this corner. I'm going to choose the top of this stitch here, and that's like just shy of 10 inches. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, and yeah, so this looks good. This looks real good. But where I need to do pin blocking is more in here, this area. You'll notice we talked about this yesterday when I first showed the project. I've got this pulling in on the sides. This is happening because this is a knit purl combination here in the middle, and this type of knit purl combination almost acts like ribbing and pulls the project in. So what I want to do is I want these edges to be square, so it's one straight line all the way up. But if I just finger press it like I did down here, it's going to draw in again. So that's why I'm going to use pins to hold this edge in place while it dries, because then after it dries, it'll stay. The thing I have to be careful though is I don't want to stretch this too much, because if I stretch this too much, I'm going to lose the texture of this trellis pattern here in the middle. So right here, this actually runs pretty well. I'm going to just use my ruler. That's at 9. That's really good. That's really good. Right through this section, it looks like it's pretty straight. So I'm going to just place a pin here, right where, I'm going to place a pin here, right where this stitch pattern and this stitch pattern come together. How you place your pins is really important. A lot of times people will take their pin and they'll just jab it vertically into the piece like that. It's not what you want to do. Think of your pin as your replacement for your finger. And when you finger press and you hold something down, you hold it like this. So you want the pin to go down in the same way. So it's better to angle your pin down. All right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my pin, I'm going to hold it, I'm going to pin it down, I'm going to just put it down on this part and pin that down thusly. Okay? And I'm going to come up to this other side and do the same thing and kind of work both sides that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure here. All right, that looks good. That's a consistent measurement. This is how I'm going to keep things square. This part's pretty squared up, but I kind of want to set my tension area and place that pin thusly. All right, I'm going to go up to about 1 inch here from this pin, because I don't need to do a heavy blocking on this. This is a very light pinning. That looks pretty straight to me, so I'm going to go ahead. And now when I place my pin, something else, I'm not going to just angle it. I'm not going to jab it through the work. I'm going to kind of take this and I'm going to put it on the edge, right? There's this strand and this strand. I want to kind of go in between them like that and down. And that way I'm not pressing down on the top and creating a pin mark there. But this will hold it in place as if my finger just stayed there the entire time while it was drying. Now I'm going to come across, and this side, I'm going to have to pull this out a little bit because I'm not quite at that 9/8. This is why we use a ruler and we don't just eyeball it. Pull that out. Place my pin. So there. You can already see this edge now is looking straight. Let's see. Come over here. That looks good. You can always place your pin and then measure again, which is usually what I do. Perfect. Don't rush through this process, by the way. You might go, oh my gosh, my item is wet, getting dry. I'm running out of time. No, you're not. You're fine. That's why you have the water bottle. So now this edge is looking nice and straight, but this center motif is definitely flattened out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and we're going to just wet this a little bit. And I'm going to manipulate this middle pattern now to squish up these stitches so I get that 3D texture back. This is why some people don't like to pin block at all. And it's why sometimes you don't want to pin block at all. If you have cables, this is kind of what I do with cables as well when working cable patterns. See, now I'm not gonna be able to get as spongy as it was. That's just not gonna happen. But I can raise this up and just mold this with my fingers and get this back, some of that texture back and that raised quality. That is one of the things that makes this, I think, so pretty. One thing I'm gonna do real quick, I'm gonna measure from this corner to this corner. That's gonna help me know that that's square, so it's like right around 12. Do this corner to this corner, right around 12. Okay, so that looks good. That looks all square and everything. So that's how I'm pin blocking this, and I'm gonna continue this all the way up the scarf. So I'm gonna do my next section the exact same way as I did this. Okay, this is actually flaring out, so I'm going to scrunch this in a little bit. There, that's better. Here and here. There we go. And this section looks good. And look, already, just by running my hand out like that, I've already evened up this edge and this edge tremendously. And just out there. Check. Perfect. Let me just move that a little bit. I got a little wild. I got a little too long. This is not square. I made a mistake. This is why we measure, because I stretched this too much over here, and so my edge is flaring. But I can fix it because I caught it by measuring, and I just need to scrunch it in and measure. Oh yeah, that's better. There. Perfect. Now it's good. So that's it. I am finished blocking my work. So at this point, all I can do is wait for it to dry. 1 day is probably plenty, but I'll probably give it 2 full days to completely dry out. And then I will take the pins out of it. But the last step to finishing this project will be seaming together my cast on and bind off rows to turn this into a cowl. That is going to be a part 2 video, I believe, of finish this project with me. Please make sure to give this a thumbs up and share it with your knitting friends. Giving my videos a thumbs up lets people know that this is a channel worth checking out. If you have not already, please make sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell, which will let you know whenever I upload a new video, or start a live stream every Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern is Knit Tea Live, a 1-hour live stream where we get together, we talk about knitting or whatever we want, and it's always a great time. If you'd like to follow me on social media, please check out the description box below. I hope that you have a wonderful day, evening, weekend, weeknight, whenever you may be watching this. And as always, happy health and happy knitting. Bye. Hey all y'all, welcome back to part 2 of Finish My Project with me. And today we are going to be washing and blocking this, what will be a cowl. Let's try that again. Okay. Ba 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 ba, filling the tub, filling the tub, filling the tub with enough water. Just need enough, just need enough, just need enough water to submerge my knitting. Hashtag copyrighted. Oh, oh, oh. And yes, I really do sing all the time. This is like the only thing is I gotta like tip this to get the rest of the water out. I gotta tip the water there to the hole. Tip the water to the hole, tip the water to the hole. This tub though, I only use it for washing hand knits. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I have the smell of wet wool and it's just like,